Hello, here we are again. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to show you how to put together cards, but I'm going to show you the process because I'm sure that a lot of you are like me. We have all these embossing folders, we have all these stamps and all these papers, pattern papers, colored papers, and we look at them and say, what do I do with them? So what I'm going to do today is to show you some ideas on how to go from something like this, just a stamp, to a beautiful card like this one. I'm going to give you some coloring techniques. I'm not a coloring person, but I'll teach you that. And I'm just giving you some ideas on how to use embossing folders, how to color if you don't like to color like me, how to match papers with designs. So this is the main focus of the video today. Thank you for being here, and let me just show you some ideas here on the kind of material that I use. For example, for this one, I had this stamp. Let me get a piece of paper here because you know how stamps are. You always need white to see them. It's a beautiful stamp. It's a background stamp. But when I look at stamps like this, I always think about the trouble, that a lot of work that you're going to put into to color them, and I don't like coloring. So I'm going to show you some ideas on how to go around that. That's one of them. Let me show you another one. This one is a very new stamp that I bought, this one here. And I just had an idea of coloring. This one I really enjoyed coloring and using embossing folder. I'll show you one that did not go really well. This one was really hard to make. I ended up I kind of like it, but I don't love it, to be honest. But I was trying to match this gold here, and I used some gold glitter paper, glitter pens, and then at the end I'll show you. And this is the thing about this video. I'm going to show you the mistakes I made and how I tried to correct them. And you see very much with this one here. So also how to use stamps like this one. Sometimes you get stamps that is just a little tiny flower. And so how do I use that? Because I tend to use more bold and fuller stamps. So I'm going to give you ideas on how to use just individual flowers like this. See, that's the other one that I used with the same stamp here. So just stick to it to the end. And this one that I used, I absolutely love this technique. I'll show you how to do this. You actually just use a frame, and then you add a little bit of foam to the panel, and it just stands out like this. And this is another mistake I made. See how it has like a shadow? That was a mistake because I moved the stamp, but then I looked at it and said, wow, it looks really great. So anyway, so let's get to the fun part of it, making, stamping, coloring, and doing all of these things. How to do black and white. I'm going to show you how to just stick to black and white so you don't have to color. Have fun, enjoy, and use all the materials you have. Having a lot of fun. So the first thing we do is stamp. Use your flowers in different ways. This is one of the ways that I'm going to maybe cut over here and create two with this panel. One on the side. Just use your creativity in whatever stamps you have with flowers. So this is another one that I absolutely love. And what I'm going to do is to show you how to use these panels, how to color them, how to cut them. So this is the same flower but on the other side, and I had two of these actually because I want to show you. I don't know about you guys, but I am not a coloring person. When I look at something like this, I go, oh my goodness gracious, it's gonna take me forever. So no, I'm going to show you how to make beautiful panels without having to color all of the flowers. So stay tuned for that. And of course, you can always leave it black and white. It's beautiful anyway. Look at this. So it's a beautiful background just as is. So I'm going to actually create two, just so you know, two options. And this is another background that I like. There's no coloring here, just a little bit maybe. So let's just put these cards together, and I'm going to show you some ideas on how to use your flower stamps. And I decided to start with what I like the least, which is coloring. Just to show you how I do it, as I said before, I am not going to color all the flowers because it's way too much work for me. But what I do for coloring is I use at least 3 shades of the same color. One is for depth, which is the darker one. The darker ones I just use for shadowing. And the other ones, just so they're not, every petal is not the same color, and maybe you don't see it as well here, but you see it when you look at the panel. And I also choose, when I know that I'm not going to color everything, I just make sure that there is one kind of in the middle of the panel, the other one in the bottom, and one on the top. Because at the end, I don't know if I'm going to add a sentiment and if I need to add something else to the panel. So I just make it just looks better if it's well even placed. At the end, I actually added one more little tiny bud. You will see how I did that. But this is just to show you that when you have a panel or a stamp set that is more like a background stamp, that you have a lot of images to color, you don't actually have to color all of them. It is really personal preference and it looks just great. See, and the other one I'm just going to keep black and white to show you how to use a black and white background. And this is another stamp. This is more like a background stamp again, so you have a lot of flowers there. Again, I look at it and I say, okay, let me just choose which flowers to color. And again, the same technique. I have three different shades of orange, and that's how I apply it, so you can have some shading. And you can see that I do this to the blue ones too. It's practically the same thing. I always use this technique because, as I said before, I'm not very good at coloring. So there you go, and it's good enough. Again, you just distribute it evenly in the background just to make sure that you have flowers everywhere in case you want to cover part of the background or not. So there is another panel ready for you. The next step is pattern paper. Will I use some? So what I do is, based on the colors that I used for coloring, I cut some panels of papers that I like and I think they might match, and I kind of put the panels that I colored together. Should I use it or not, and what goes with what. You can see now this one may go with that color there because of the red, but at the end I actually didn't use it. But I just kind of put them around one on top of another, and I try out different papers with the different colors. So card number 1, I decided that the color I wanted to highlight was orange based on one of the flowers. So I just used my brick embossing folder and I embossed the paper. I love this. I think this is the one that I use the most because it really goes well with anything that looks like a house or a wall that you need to just highlight the wall. It's really perfect for that. And the other thing that you should think about is when you use a border, like I use this scallop border here, you make sure to cut both with the same border, because I'm going to, right now I'm just fussy cutting the flowers and I'm going to glue it to the orange panel. So just to make sure that both of them would follow the same design, you have to cut both with the same frame. See, it looks perfect now. And card number 2, that's the one for lazy coloring people like me. I use another frame. This is my favorite frame because it's quite modern and very irregular. So what I did was just very simple. This one is actually a very simple card. I just cut with the frame, and then I tried some of the pattern papers that I had. That one didn't work. Actually, none of the ones that I had cut previously worked. So what I did was, you know what? It's red. Let's just use plain red paper. And that's what I did. No pattern paper. So there it is. I just wanted to add some more texture to it. So I used another embossing folder. This is a beautiful one too. Very intricate. And it worked really well. So all I did was just ran it through my machine, and then I glued the panel on this background. Look how gorgeous that is. And that's it. Done. For card number 3, it's a very easy technique. Again, very simple. I love simple cards. What I did was I used this frame, and it just cuts the frame on the edges of the card. And what you're going to do, because as you notice, the central part of this card is popping up, so very easy to do. You just add foam to the central part of the card, and it's going to pop up a little bit. So it gives it a little bit of dimension, and it looks really nice at the end. It's a very easy effect that I use quite often on my cards. So let me see what it looks like when it comes out of the machine. See, it's cut, but what I'm going to do is to pop up the central part by using foam. And that's that. Now the most complicated card of all. Not because it's complicated, but just because I couldn't make it work. The first thing I did was to, again, cut with a frame, very basic frame. I just show some stitching, and I wanted the same thing. If you want to mount a card and you have a background, I always make sure that if I'm going to cut it, I want to have the same frame. So I just fussy cutted it, very easy to do, and I was just thinking, well, I'm just going to glue this on that very beautiful red pattern paper, but once I glued on it, that doesn't really look very good. So I decided after that to say, okay, I'm going to use some gold pen to highlight parts of the flowers and the pattern and the design, so it will go and match. Maybe it will help look better. And at the end, it just looked really messy. I was not happy with it. But I just insist. Sometimes you just have to keep going, right? And that's what I did. Next thing the next idea I had was I'm going to color just the main image, the main flower, with the same colors that the pattern paper has. And also, as you see, I added gold. It's not just the frame, it was a whole background, but it just gives a little bit of a very thin frame of gold. And I think that did it. It's not my favorite. I kind of like it, don't love it, but I think in the end it really worked. And after the most difficult, the easiest. This one was quite easy. I cut with one of those round frames that has stitching around it. I wanted to use just the main green paper, but then I said, no, I'm going to add some pattern paper, and I found that one that I really think works beautifully. But I wanted to add some, just something else to it, so I just cut the border only on the top, and I glued it on paper, and I said, okay, I think this is it. Good enough, no sentiments, nothing. Just the papers. I cut the rest of it, just trimmed it off, and then I glued it to the side, and that was it. And now 6 and 7. These are very simple, so I'm just going to show them together. The black and white one, what I did was I mounted the main image on a black piece of paper, so it just added that very thin frame to make the central panel pop, and I also added some foam, and at the end the sentiment. So when you have a black and white card, red always works great. It's the best one. You can see there on the side the foam just to make it pop a little bit, and on the side here you can see the texture that I added by using an embossing folder. So that's the black and white one. The other one was even easier. I just cut 2 pieces of different pattern paper and I added that panel to it on the side like I did with the green one, the previous card. And it's just a very simple card to make. 2 pieces of pattern paper and the stamp imaged. So here they are. And here they are, all 7 cards, just so you look at them for the last time. I hope you have learned how to make quick cards using your flower stamps, some of the embossing folders you have around, your coloring markers, and some foam. That's all you need for all these cards. I hope you learned a lot. I will see you next time, and thank you for coming and subscribing to my channel.